I'm doing well today. What about you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking.
All right. Before I proceed ahead, do you happen to have any sort of doubts or questions, anything you wish to ask?
Not at this point in time,
All
but
right.
I'll ask you in case I have that. So let's begin. What I understand when it comes to the topic, the more we communicate, the less we really say is that if I talk about the sensible talk or the conversation that we have on daily basis, all we have to make sure is that we don't communicate for the sake of it. It should be sensible. Whatever we are talking, it should be crisp and quite understandable. It should make meaning. It should make sense, I believe. It's not that, the way we communicate with the friends, we become very open and talk anything and everything, whether it makes sense or it does not make sense, right? So I see a lot of people, they're very talkative and they'll keep on talking and it wouldn't make much sense. So instead of doing that, what we can do is that talk very less, and that should serve your purpose, whatever that conversation that you'd like to have. And not that you keep communicating, you keep talking, and it does not make sense too much. Um, Maybe I think nowadays, if I talk about the social media, right, what we do is that that's completely based on the quantity, not quality, right? And the source is not the authentic, I would say. The news that we're hearing, or we scroll on the smartphones. Uh, Sometimes what we see is that the source, since the source is not relevant, the source is not that authenticate. Um, Anybody and everybody can go ahead and type whatever they wish, whether it makes sense, it does not. Uh, you know, I think instead of doing that, we need to make sure that whatever that we share, it should not be on the. We should not. Uh, it should not be based on the false propaganda, or I would say, the anything that we uh, post on social media, we must make sure that it should not hamper the sentiments of the people, and whatever we are saying, it should be very crisp and easy understandable. So this is what I am basically understand, from the topic. What do you make out of this? Am I making sense, or is it something
Oh
else
yeah.
the topic talks about?
Oh no, no, you are making complete sense. This is a very abstract topic, so I think whatever you say is correct. There's nothing wrong when it comes to an abstract topic like this.
Hmm.
It is definitely differently perceived by everyone. So yeah, there's nothing wrong in what you said. That's not what I would point out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, when I consider this particular statement, that yes, the first thing that comes to the head is those talkative people who tend to just express and express and express and express, and sometimes they're not really making sense, but they keep on talking still. So that's that. But I feel like they don't do it on intentionally. I think it's just a force of habit that they have. And I think expression is good. I would never say or tell a person to stop talking because I'm not enjoying the conversation. It's always good if somebody is that expressive. That's great. It's just that, yeah, while they're talking, what you said about social media and people posting on social media, that, yeah, you must be careful about the sentiments of other people. You shouldn't free speech and everything is great, but it shouldn't come at a cost of hurting people or hurting sentiments, hurting religions or things like that. So yeah, that's definitely there. That's something a person should always remain accountable for. But besides that, I think, yeah, communicating as much as you want is really your choice. Some people use it as a way of expression. They use it as a way of letting other people know how they feel. So yeah, I wouldn't per se agree or disagree with the statement. I think it really depends upon the perception of a person and how they look at communication. So that's that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Makes
All
sense.
right.
All right. Okay. Right. So with that, I'll close this particular extempore topic, and I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with our main topic for today, which is medicines. I hope there are no questions till this point.
Uh, no. Let's proceed and try to find out what other questions can probably come up
Yeah.
while conversation.
Well, yeah. Well, medicines. I'm not a person who's interested in biology or something, but still. So let me start with this. Do you believe in natural treatments or more modern ways of treatments? Where do you lie?
I think the modern treatment, what I prefer, because it's something which gives you the instant result, right? And if I talk about all the traditional way of getting people treated
Mhm.
with the natural medicines and something so-called like homeopath, right?
Mhm.
Homeopath is something that we have researched as Indians,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot of time. You might not have the quickest possible results. It takes time, but when that comes to the allopath, or as we were talking about the modern way of the treatments,
Mhm.
I think that gives you the instant results, wherein most of the people prefer going for that. So if I talk about myself, I certainly like to go the second one, which is the modern one, the modern style of treatment.
Hmm, that makes sense. Fair enough. That's true, actually. Those remedies are pretty quick, and sometimes I think speedy recovery is required. So, allopathy almost becomes necessary if you want to save someone.
Right.
So, that's also there. Makes sense. But allopathy comes with its own set of side effects, right? Like every medicine you have ever picked up from your counter comes with like a bajillion side effects of it. Some of the side effects are basically the disease that you're using it for, right? So, it can be that as well. So with all these side effects and everything, do you think pharmaceutical companies they end up creating more problems than they solve?
Sometimes I believe. Why? Because uh, I mean they are developing products like they're developing medicines in the laboratory, and things are. I mean, as you pointed out, there could be side effects. If I talk about the allopathy, the style of treatment, wherein there could be a number of side effects, and which you might not encounter right away, but probably due to the course of time, you might encounter those side effects. Maybe if you're taking medicines for, say, for example, the headache or the diarrhea, dysentery, whatever you call it. And then maybe if it is taken, the medicines are taken for a prolonged period of time. Maybe after say 10, 10 years, 15 years down the line, you might have some side effects which you might encounter. But that's something which is something pretty obvious, right? If you're not going for the natural remedies, and it takes, as I pointed out, it takes time. So nobody wants to wait for so long, and nobody wants to stay home and getting things very slowly, which hampers your day-to-day activities. Nobody likes and wants that. So that's one thing. And coming back to the topic that pharmaceutical companies are actually creating sometimes problems, or rather solving problems, right?
Mhm.
If I talk about, let's talk about the pandemic that we had, recently. When the, all the companies, the pharmaceutical companies, had to produce or develop a vaccine against this coronavirus. Uh, what happened is that talk about the drug development life cycle. It takes around probably 2.5 years of the timeline, wherein if any vaccination has to be developed, it normally takes 2.5 years. But by looking at the adverse effects, the people affected out of from this pandemic, people were dying, that they were giving up their lives, right? So the scientists from all around the world, or the doctors, uh, probably they developed in a very less period of time. I don't know how, but normally, if I talk about all these processes, it takes time. Uh, Again, the second thing, what they did is there could be, as I mentioned, like 2.5 years is a normal timeline, right? And if you develop something which is in less than that, you're compromising somewhere, right, with the quality. And that later on you might encounter something, and you must have heard about the side effects of these medicines. Probably, if somebody who is caught with this coronavirus, coronavirus, and if they're getting the treatment, maybe they have some different diseases caught altogether, right? And
Mm.
that's probably the side effects. I don't know. I mean, since the people were dying and the scientists were in a hurry to develop, the companies were in the since today is a gut wrenching competition, right? So everybody
Mm.
wants to compete, with one another. So it's just not the one company that is producing the farmers, the medicines. There are n number of companies all across the world. They were in the competition to develop at quickest as possible, and the one who wins the race probably would be end up making a lot of money, right? Because the demand will be very very high because people were losing their lives, and considering the fact they'll be able to earn a lot. So certainly, what I'm trying to say here is that the companies are not following their SLAs or say the guidelines, right? Uh, and the ethical practices, and something which is being created from the agencies, the one who is the regulatory body controls the all these medical practices and the developing the drugs and all of that, right? So we somehow compromised with it and came out with the say called the drugs, and we sell it through the end up in making a lot of money. So that's something which is again that talks about that strengthens the point is that the pharmaceutical companies are somewhere compromising with the quality, and then they're giving I would say a setback instead of giving solution to the problem. Yeah. What do you think? What is your take on this?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that yes, pharmaceutical companies, they do compromise in the quality to a very, very large extent, especially when it comes to third world countries like India or Sri Lanka or Pakistan or South Asian countries, basically. So it seems to be happening here more because the guidelines are not very strict here. People are still allowed to use certain drugs that are banned in other places in other countries, and here we don't have cells to report what side effects we are facing, and we usually don't even think about it. When it comes to countries, first world countries like US or UK, if people eat a certain, like, they take a certain medicine, they consume any sort of drug, and if they get a sudden headache after it, or they get any other symptom after it, they have places to report it, and they take it very seriously. They try to go
Absolutely.
through the drug trials again. We don't have those resources in India, we don't have those resources in Pakistan, we don't have those resources in Sri Lanka and countries like that. So I do feel that pharmaceutical companies tend to benefit from that a lot. I mean, the consumption of Disprin is the biggest example of it. Disprin and Combiflam, these two medicines have been, these drugs have been banned in any other country, any other first world country, but they are sold over the counter on in India. That is, you don't even need a prescription for them.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's, I think, a good example to understand that yes, pharmaceutical companies are creating more problems than resolving. So
The
that's that.
generic the generic medicines, I'm sure that you must have heard about it. The
Mm,
generic medicines are easily available, right?
mm,
Talk about the compare the prices.
mm,
Say, for example, if there's one medicine which is generic, and the same combination, or they see the chemical composition, you
mm,
have with the say medicine which are not generic, there will be the huge difference, right? Generic is something which you probably can understand that they are not genuine or say not which is approved by the
yeah,
FDA's,
yeah,
correct? But those are being sold on all the counters, and you'll have the
yeah,
distinctive the price difference. So that is something which is the malpractices that is being practiced by the pharmaceutical companies, and nobody cares. I mean, there is though there are regulatory body in India, but that is not that stringent when it comes to
Yeah.
policies and when it comes to the stringentness or probably
Hmm.
hard on their regulations and everything. Yes.